Hi, my name is Amy Heyse, and in today's tutorial, I'm going to show you how to draw this famous saint couple. Their names are Saint Joachim and Saint Anne. Sometimes I hear his name pronounced differently. But anyway, their feast day is on July 26th, and today's drawing is partially inspired by this painting right here. For this project, you need a piece of paper, a pencil, and something to color with. So the first thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to work on drawing some ovals for their heads. So I have their faces touching in the middle. So around the middle of my paper, I'm going to start off with an oval shape for Saint Anne's head. You, of course, can do any shape or size head that you wish. I'm just doing a simple oval, kind of like this. And I want to draw Saint Joachim's head touching on this side. So their faces are touching in the middle, and I'm drawing another oval, but on this left side. But I'm trying to do it a similar size and having their chins come down a similar length. All right, once I'm happy with the shape of their heads, I'm going to start off with his cloak. So right where his the bottom of his beard and chin is, there's these two lines that kind of go off towards the side edges like this. One's a little bit longer on the left side and one's a little bit shorter on the right side. And it kind of curves down, kind of like when you see like cartoon drawings of curtains in the window. That's kind of what I'm going for. So the first thing that I'm going to do is at the middle of his face down at the bottom, I'm going to do a curve towards the right. And I'm kind of stopping close to where Saint Anne's chin would be. And I'm going to do a curved line off towards the left like this. Next, I'm going to be putting in these curved lines, but they're kind of going the opposite. So this one's coming down to create this shoulder, and this one's coming down to create that shoulder. So I'll start here on this right edge of the face, and I'm going to do a slight curved line that comes down. So connecting from his chin and connecting to this edge right here. And I'm going to start my next line here on this part of his chin, and I'm going to curve down and stop when I connect to this line right here. And of course, if you decide that you want to make any adjustments, the nice thing about drawing with a pencil is we can always make an adjustment and erase the lines that we no longer need. So the next thing that we're going to do is we're going to draw the sleeve that's reaching out and hugging Saint Anne. So it kind of starts with a little bit of space in between the chin and this opening on the cloak. So right about here is where I'm going to start my line. And it's just the ever so slightly curved line that comes across the body past this part of the cloak. So I'm going to end it about right here. And I want it to be a little bit wide, so with a little bit of space between this edge and where I want the other part of the sleeve to go. So about right here, I'm going to do a similar curved line, so basically going the same direction, kind of like this. So it looks like two kind of like smiling lines. They're just ever so slightly curved. I think I might make this one a little bit wider up at the top, and I'll erase this line right here. But once I get my lines just the way I want, I'm going to connect them with a straight line, and that's going to create the edge of the sleeve. For the shape of the hand, I'm going to do kind of a mitten shape. We're going to do a small curve for the thumb and a larger curve for the big fingers. So starting here at the opening of the sleeve, I'm going to do a small curve like this for the thumb, followed by a bigger curve for the big fingers. And it's going to come around and stop about halfway down the sleeve like so. Now if I leave the hand like that, it looks like a mitten truly, but if I add 1, 2, 3 straight across lines, that's going to break this hand into those tall fingers. So you just put 3 straight across lines like this, and that separates that mitten shape into 5 fingers. We're going to do a mitten shape for Saint Anne's hand, which is here. And we don't see the full hand because it's tucked behind the sleeve, but we'll start with the tall fingers. Right where the sleeve meets the cloak, I'm going to do a long curve for those long fingers, and I'm going to do a short curve that comes and connects to the sleeve here. I also want to separate that into tall fingers, so I'm going to fit 1 or 2 lines, depending on how close the hand is to the sleeve. You might not see as many fingers as you do in mine, or you might see more fingers on yours than mine. The point is that we're just practicing and we're all unique. Our drawings are all going to look different, even if we're following the same steps. So next we're going to be putting in St. Anne's shoulders. So in this gap between her head and this cloak, I'm going to do a short line right here. That's going to match that line here. And then I'm going to do a big curve, and that's going to connect her head, swoop around, and connect to the hands right here. So starting at the edge of the face, I'm going to do a curved line that comes around and connects to St. Joachim's hand. So here at her wrist, I'm going to start with a curved line, kind of like this, and then come up and connect to her shoulder. And it's okay if yours looks a little bit different than mine. Yours might be bigger or smaller. And to finish off this area, we're going to extend St. Joachim's shoulder down to St. Anne's arm, and then we'll add another line here kind of by her hand to create a fold of fabric in the cloak. So this part of his cloak, I'm just going to take the line and go down and stop at her arm. And then at the middle, underneath his chin, I'm going to add another line and stop when I hit her hand or her arm. We're going to add some straight lines that come down, and that creates the length of their clothing. So I'll start on this left side. I'm going to do a line that starts at St. Joachim's cloak, and it's going to come down almost straight, and I'm going to stop when I get as far as I want his cloak to be. And the line for St. Anne is going to start here on her arm, and I'm going to do a line that comes downwards. Maybe it's a slight angle, not perfectly straight up and down, but it's going to stop pretty much the same length as St. Joachim's cloak. You, of course, can make yours as long or as short as you wish. We're going to do another line right here where their bodies touch. So kind of like in the middle. So like middle of their bodies is going to be about right here, kind of here at this opening of his sleeve. I'm just going to do a line that comes straight down, and it's going to be about the same length as these two lines. And I want to connect the outside edge of their clothing to the middle. So the line kind of reminds me of a smile. So for St. Joachim, over here on this left side, I'm going to do a smile line that comes over and connects to this line here in the middle. And I'm going to do another smile line connecting the middle to the outside edge of St. Anne's dress. My St. Joachim and St. Anne are, their clothing is a little bit more narrow in this version than in this example that I made. So if I wanted to make their clothing wider, I absolutely could by just drawing their clothing the size I want and just extending it so it's a little larger, or I can decide to keep it just the way it is. As artists, we get to make decisions, and so you get to decide if you want to make any adjustments to your artwork before we move on to other steps. I think I'm going to make mine just a little bit longer. All right, so the next thing that we're going to do is we're going to add this folded fabric for Joachim's cloak. So kind of in the middle between the bottom of their clothing and where his arm is. So middle for me is about right here. It might be different for you. That's where I'm going to start this curve of fabric. So I'm just going to show you a little bit at a time slowly. So you're going to start off by moving your line towards the left like this, and that's going to create this bottom edge of the fabric, but then it starts to curve. So when you get as far as you want, you're going to start to curve your line in towards the right like that. So it kind of looks like a candy cane turned on its side. I'm going to swoop that line back like this, and it's going to go towards the left. I'm going to stop when that fabric is as long as I want it to be, and it's going to curve back in towards the right. So here's another kind of candy cane swoop. Then I'm going to swoop that fabric again and end in this corner here. So I have 1, 2, 3 squiggles on this line. And what I'm going to do is where it's curved here at the edges, I'm going to do these straight lines here that come up and connect to his arm or his cloak. So right here where there's this fold here, I'm going to do a line that starts at the curve and it goes up and stops at his arm. And I'm going to do the same thing here. It's just going to be a little bit longer. I'm just going to move my pencil up, and it's just going to stop wherever I hit his arm or his cloak. The last thing I need to do is I need to do straight up and down lines here to create this fabric that's folded behind. So on these curves here, I'm going to do one line that goes up here and one line that goes up there. So that looks like the fabric is folding behind here and here. Next, we'll work on St. Anne's head covering or veil. So near the top of her head, I'm going to start off by putting a curved line, think kind of like a frown, that comes across her head like this and goes past her head and touches her arm. So it's kind of like this big frown line, or it's curved like a rainbow. And we're going to do a bigger version of that for this outside part of her head covering. So I'm going to start at where their heads touch. I'm going to have it be the same height as her head, but I'm going to have it come out just a little further and come down until I hit her back like that. And I'm going to erase this oval line here and here. That way it looks like the fabric is on top of her head. She also has this little white part wrapped around her head. So I'm going to put kind of an oval shape here where her face is peeking out. So you just want to leave a little bit of space in between her chin and the edges of her head and head covering. So it just creates this little opening where her face is peeking out. I'm going to finish off her face. She has just 2 simple circle eyes and a little curve for her nose and her mouth. You, of course, can change her face however you wish, but I'm just going to keep it simple. So right about the middle of her head, that's where I'm going to put in these circles for her eyes. So I'll do one here, and I'll do one over here. Just want to make sure that I'm leaving some space in between. Above her eyes, in between her eyes and this white part of her headdress, I'm going to do a little curved line down, and these are going to be her eyebrows. In between her eyes and her chin, about halfway, I'm going to do a small curve for her nose, and then I'll do a longer curve for a simple smiling mouth. Now we'll finish off St. Joachim, so we're going to start with his ear. There's this little curve, think kind of like a parenthesis. So about the middle of his head, I'm going to do this slight curved line like this for his ear. We don't see the other ear on this side because their heads are touching so close together. But we are going to start adding in this little bit of hair that's touching his ear. So staying kind of close to the oval shape of the head, I'm just adding a small sliver of hair kind of peeking out like that. And we'll put in his face next. He, like St. Anne, he has two simple circle eyes, a simple curve for his nose and mouth. You, of course, can change yours however you wish. So about center, I'm going to put a circle for this eye here and a circle for an eye over on that right side. We're going to do simple eyebrows. So above his eyes, I'm going to do a slight curve downwards for those eyebrows. And then in between his eyes and his chin, about halfway, is where I'm going to put a curved line like a smile for his nose. I'm going to do a bigger curved line in between his nose and his chin for his simple smiling mouth. And to finish off his beard, we're going to be putting in two downwards curved lines, but then they go up at the edges of his face. So starting at his nose, I'm going to do a downwards curve on each side, kind of like this, and then an upwards line that goes up until it connects with his face, like that. If you want to make any adjustments to your artwork, you can. I'm going to be adding in halos for my St. Joachim and Anne. I just have these simple circles. Feel free to trace something, or you can sketch it freehand like what I'm going to do. So we just want to make sure that the halo is just slightly above where their heads are. So I'm going to have St. Anne's come out and around like this. You can make it as big or as small as you wish. And then St. Joachim's also goes around his head, and right here I have mine overlapping St. Anne's, and they were a married couple, and so I kind of like how their halos are intertwining. It kind of reminds me of wedding rings. So unless there are any other details that you want to add to your drawing, like maybe you want to add a little Mary or a background, feel free to make any changes that you wish to your artwork. But when you're finished, you can go ahead and color it. I'm going to be using markers because that's what shows up well on camera. And when I use markers, I love to outline my pencil lines using black pens, kind of like this. But you, of course, can use your favorite art supplies at home. Thank you so much for drawing along with me. I would love to see how your artwork turned out. Feel free to tag me on social media, and know that I post new Catholic-inspired art tutorials here on my channel every week. Another way that you can help support my channel is through my Buy Me a Coffee page and art supply wish list. I want to remind you that you are loved, God loves you very much, and He loves your artwork very much. Thank you so much for following along with today's tutorial, and I'll see you in the next video.